I was his lead criminal defense counsel in his criminal case. And Michael took it very hard to be charged with something that horrific, and to have to go through that kind of a process was very, very difficult for him. So I knew Michael during the worst chapter in his life.
What did you think of him as a person?
He was one of the nicest people I've ever met. Kind, gentle, supportive, very, very sensitive to the needs of others, very interested in healing the world, very interested in helping disadvantaged people. He truly was one of the nicest human beings I've ever met.
It sounds very cliched.
Well, it's very true. Michael had a desire to heal the world. He knew he had unique opportunities financially, reputationally, creatively, and he told me that he wanted to make a difference on the planet. He wanted to make it a better place. It sounded naive and ideal a little bit, but that was Michael. He always was trying to help somebody.
Do you think he's remotely or could have been remotely capable of doing any of those things?
The things he's been accused of doing? Absolutely not. I am 100% convinced Michael never abused a child, never harmed a child, certainly never molested a child. I think this is hogwash.
Are you on any sort of retainer at all from the Jackson estate?
No, I'm not on any retainer at all.
So no one's paying you any money to say nice things about Michael Jackson?
No. I will always say he was a nice person. He was. He was one of the nicest people I ever met.
But you, of all people, know the smoke and fire argument. Is there any fire?
There's no fire here whatsoever.
Sometimes, as you know, lawyers have to ignore the obvious in order to mount a defense. Would you have represented him if you thought he was a child abuser?
Well, I have represented people in my lifetime that had strong evidence against them. And people always say to me, will you defend someone you think is guilty? And the answer is yes, because we criminal defense lawyers fulfill two functions. Number one, we make sure that innocent people get their justice, that they're exonerated. We also make the system work. I think we have the best justice system in the world. It's far from perfect. It convicts innocent people all the time. All you have to do is look at what DNA has done, all the innocent people that have been released from prison, people serving life sentences, people facing the death penalty, people whose families were devastated by their convictions, to know that this system is not perfect. And to make this system work the best, everybody has to fight for justice. Prosecutors have to do their job, judges have to do their job, defense attorneys have to do their job. I believe in making the system work, and I believe that prosecutors, police, governmental agents will be tempted to abuse their power unless they know good defense lawyers are going to expose them and fight back. So I believe in making the system work. I don't just hand-pick cases because someone looks innocent, although I've had a lot of people that certainly did look innocent, for sure.
But would you have represented him if you thought he was guilty?
I would have to talk to him. I would have to find out more about the case. The answer is I take criminal cases because everybody deserves a defense. And when I got into this case, I really didn't know what to expect. The whole world was saying he was guilty. The press everywhere was atrocious. Friends told me not to take the case. They said you can't win it, and the rest of your life and career will be defined by this case. Everywhere you go in the world, people will say, you sent him to prison. I was warned repeatedly, don't take it. And I took the case because I believe in what I do. I believe in the criminal defense profession. I think we do a lot more to create freedom and liberty and make the system work than people realize. So when I got into the case, I really didn't know the evidence. I knew what he told me, and that he was absolutely innocent. He said, this is just ridiculous. I never did anything like this. I never could conceive of doing anything like this. And I found him very, very credible, but I reserved my opinion until I dug into the evidence. And the more I looked at the evidence, the more it seemed to me this man was completely innocent.
That moment in the courtroom when they said not guilty, how many times?
14.
14 times. What was that like?
That was one of the most unique, powerful, unusual experiences of my lifetime. I had lived in Santa Maria, California, which is northern Santa Barbara County, which is north of Los Angeles where I live in California. And I'd lived up there for 6 months. And I'd lived like a hermit for 6 months. I was well aware that the media was following me, that they were trying to film me and that they would like to see me in a compromising position because the media was against Michael Jackson. And I was in bed in my condominium at 7:30 every night. I was up at 3 o'clock every day. You didn't find me in a bar, a restaurant, a club, anywhere where you could make me look bad. And once the media realized that my lights were out at 7:30, they stopped following me. But I lived like a hermit. The conditions were very stressful. The family was watching the reporting, and the reporting was very biased. And they were very concerned that maybe things weren't going well in the courtroom because of what they saw on television. And I told them, I think things are going quite well. I can't guarantee a result, but I think they're going quite well.
And when they went very well?
They went extremely well. I was very relieved. That day, the 14th not guilty came down. He was acquitted completely. I hugged him. I looked in the courtroom and I saw all these disappointed media faces, people who wanted the drama and the story to continue, and it was over.
What did Michael Jackson say to you?
He said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Never forget it.
And that was it?
Well, that was it. Well, then I saw him at Neverland later that day. In fact, there was a press conference with the worldwide media that I skipped because I wanted to be with him and his family at Neverland. And he was very, very appreciative. He wanted to hug my staff and thank them for what they'd done for he and his family. Very powerful time.
Did he make any comment to you about the tribulation, about the pressure that he'd been under, or how he viewed that?
You know, he didn't have to. I watched him deteriorate physically and emotionally during the trial. He was very, very sensitive to these kinds of attacks. And you have to remember what he was charged with. He was charged with masterminding a conspiracy to abduct children, to falsely imprison a family, and to commit extortion, which he would never in a million years even dream of doing. He was charged with taking a cancer-stricken child and giving that child alcohol to prepare the child to be molested. These are horrific charges. These are ugly, nasty charges. I think it's worse to be charged with something like this than homicide. I really do. So he took these charges very, very, I mean, he was so devastated by people trying to say he was doing this. And he was so devastated by the prosecution trying to make him look like a criminal mastermind, which was so absurd. He deteriorated throughout the trial, he did. By verdict day, he just looked like a shell of his old self to me, hoarding. Michael was a very, very creative spirit, a very vulnerable person. He was kind to people throughout his lifetime, and because of his wealth and his fame, he was a good target. And there was always a perception that he was very vulnerable, that people could exploit him.
What about the former house staff at Neverland? Are they making up what they saw?
I cross-examined a number of these witnesses at trial, and in my opinion, they were among the worst witnesses I've ever seen in a courtroom. You need to look at their testimony, and particularly the cross-examination, which they all looked terrible in. I mean, so many witnesses by the prosecution in that trial just got destroyed on cross-examination, which the media never reported. Well, I met with Wade Robson before he testified in the criminal trial, and he was very, very strong in his defense of Michael Jackson. He told me in no uncertain terms he had not been molested, he had not been abused, and that these claims were ridiculous. I mean, this man was so strongly supportive of Michael Jackson, so powerful in his defense of Michael Jackson, that it just shocks me that he's changed his story in recent years. I just can't get over it. Because understand this, in a criminal trial, if you call defense witnesses, you, the defense attorney, decide to put on your case, you are taking risks. You are subjecting defense witnesses to cross-examination as well. And in this particular case, I thought we had done so well in cross-examining the prosecution's witnesses that I had to think long and hard before I put on a defense case. And I concluded that even though probably 99% of lawyers in my position would probably rest and not put on a defense case, I didn't want the jury to hang and Michael Jackson to go through another trial. I didn't think he could stand it physically and emotionally. I just didn't want that to happen. So I took a risk and put on an extensive defense case. And if you're going to put on a defense case, you want to start strong and you want to end strong. I started strong with Wade Robson as my first witness. I ended strong with Chris Tucker, the famous comedian, as my last witness. And Wade was so powerfully supportive of Michael Jackson that I wanted to start with him. Macaulay Culkin was my second witness, who also was extremely supportive of Michael Jackson, claiming he never was improperly touched. Brett Barnes was my third witness from Australia, who said that he was never improperly touched, and he was angry that anyone suggested he was. He said words to the effect, "You think I would come here on my own and testify like this if I had been molested?" But Wade was so adamant that he hadn't been abused, and he was cross-examined by a very aggressive, very passionate, very skilled prosecutor, Ron Zonin.
And didn't break.
Didn't break at all. He was adamant that he hadn't been improperly touched by Michael at any time.
So how do you previously praise Michael Jackson and now you say 14 years later, he did unspeakable things to me?
Well, also remember that he wanted to be, apparently, he wanted to be the choreographer for the Michael Jackson estate when they were preparing to put on the Michael Jackson musical play in Las Vegas.
But he asked for a job.
That's my understanding. And the estate has told me that he wanted to be the lead choreographer for that show.
But got knocked
And they
back.
turned him down.
He got knocked back.
He got
knocked back. I mean, yeah.
He was not hired for the job for reasons I don't know. And my understanding is it was not long after he was denied that position that he changed his testimony, changed his story, and said that he was terribly abused. Now, if you were horribly abused by Michael Jackson in the way he describes, which is horrendous, why would you want to be the choreographer for the Michael Jackson show? My understanding is Mr. Robson is claiming that he was violently abused, that there was forced anal intercourse, that he was bleeding, things like that. If he's making those allegations, how could he not have remembered them when he spoke to me? How could he not have remembered them when he testified under oath in the trial that he was never molested or abused by Michael Jackson at any time? I can't get over this. You've got the most famous person in the world, one of the wealthiest people in the world, perceived as very vulnerable, okay? And people constantly tried to exploit him throughout his lifetime. And he was getting subjected to frivolous lawsuits throughout his career by people who wanted to cash in. You have to look carefully at what the allegations are and what the result is. And you have to accept the fact that Michael Jackson was an unusually desirable target for everybody. He was subjected to so many lawsuits throughout his life, it was almost scandalous.
At the end of that trial, did you ever say to Michael Jackson, look, you have to be more careful?
Michael Jackson understood after that trial that he had to be more careful, that he was a sitting duck for profiteers, for unscrupulous people, for people who wanted to just take advantage of the legal system and go after him. They did that throughout his lifetime.
The whole Gavin Arvizo accusations, am I right in saying that that was spurred by the Martin Bashir documentary?
Yes, I think the Martin Bashir documentary was a disaster for Michael Jackson. I think he never should have trusted Mr. Bashir to do an objective, professional documentary. I believe he was tricked into cooperating with Mr. Bashir because he had great respect for Princess Diana, and Michael was told that she had allowed Mr. Bashir to do her biography. And letting Mr. Bashir do a documentary of Michael Jackson was one of the most awful decisions he ever made.
Why do you think that? You think the result was slanted, do you?
I think Mr. Bashir turned it all against him, tried to create a sensationalist documentary for personal gain. That's my opinion. And it was spliced together and put together in a way which, in my opinion, was designed to make Michael look bad. If you look at the outtakes that were not included in the documentary, you see a very different Michael Jackson. You see Mr. Bashir complimenting Michael Jackson on his parenting skills, on the way he conducts his life, and the whole thing was a disaster, I think. Throughout the mid-90s, Mr. Sneddon traveled outside of America looking for witnesses against Michael Jackson. There was an incident, unfortunately, where Michael Jackson made fun of the district attorney in a music video, which I think was something he should not have been advised to do. But this Martin Bashir documentary, in my opinion, pushed things over the edge. and made this very aggressive, overzealous district attorney think he now had a case against Michael Jackson.
Did that lead to the police raid?
I think it had a lot to do with the police raid. I think the documentary made Mr. Snedden think, I now have a winnable case against him. In November of 2003, at Mr. Snedden's request, 70 sheriffs from Santa Barbara County made a surprise raid on Neverland.
70.
70. Approximately 70 sheriffs raided Neverland, scoured every building, every room for computers, for documentary evidence, anything they could find. They were relentless in their efforts to find evidence to convict Michael Jackson with.
And in a raid of that size, what did they find?
Nothing.
70 sheriffs, and they couldn't find anything to pin on. 70 sheriffs.
They tried to. They tried to look at his computers. They tried to look at what was in his closets, what was in his drawers. They made a mess out of his bedroom.
I would have thought a raid of that size, you would have had reasonable evidence prior to it to obtain the warrants.
Not in my opinion. I think this was a mission by a district attorney who, in my opinion, was overzealous, overaggressive, convinced himself that Michael Jackson was a criminal, and thought he would find a way to build a strong case against Michael Jackson. And I think he thought he had one going into the trial. I think he deluded himself. I don't think he realized how vulnerable a lot of his witnesses were to cross-examination. And I've never been in a trial where so many witnesses collapsed on cross-examination as this one. It just was remarkable that he would throw all these witnesses on the stand, under oath, and then they would just collapse on cross-examination. I've never seen anything quite like it in my whole career.
Why was the district attorney so desperate to pin Michael Jackson?
I really don't know. I really don't know. He was very respected in Santa Barbara County. Many people in Santa Barbara County thought he was ethical and principled. Some did not. But he'd been elected repeatedly for many, many years. He had an exceptional winning record in the courtroom. And a lot of people thought because he wanted to bring this case, there must be merit to it. And I can tell you, after 5 months in the courtroom, there was no merit to this case.
He was convinced that Michael Jackson was guilty of criminal
I
behavior.
think he convinced himself that Michael Jackson was guilty of the charged crimes. And I just shake my head when I think of these allegations that Michael Jackson would mastermind a criminal conspiracy to falsely imprison a family, to abduct children, to commit criminal extortion. Michael Jackson wouldn't know how to even begin to imagine such a thing.
I mean, you're one person that knows in life there's a lot of grey, not a lot of black and white. But you're adamant, aren't you? You don't think Michael Jackson has molested one single person.
Michael was a creative spirit. He danced to his own drummer. He saw things we don't see. He heard things we don't hear. He was a creative genius. He was eccentric, he was different, and he was an artist. I don't believe he was a molester for 5 seconds.
If we look at the history of this, though, the number of accusers, Chandler, Gavin Arvizo, Wade Robson now, Jimmy Safechuck, I mean, are they all making it up?
Let's look at them individually. Safechuck swore under penalty of perjury that he wasn't abused. Robson swore under penalty of perjury that he wasn't abused. Arvizo wasn't believed by the jury. 2 other people were paid off to end the litigation, to end the lawsuits so he could get on with his career. So when you look at everyone under a microscope, what do you really come up with? Not much.
Well, a lot more than most mere mortals face in their lifetime.
But he's the biggest target on the planet. He was the most famous person on the planet. He was immensely wealthy. He was perceived as immensely vulnerable. This made him a target throughout his life. And he's being attacked even in death by people who want money. And I sat with him for 5 months, 5 days a week in a criminal courtroom, watching not just the Arvizo allegations, but other allegations being made against him. Allegations that he had molested Macaulay Culkin. Allegations that he had molested a whole bunch of other people. The prosecution even said Mr. Robson had been molested. They said Brett Barnes had been molested. I started my case with 3 of these young men getting up under oath, voluntarily traveling to Santa Barbara, California. Two of them one from overseas, one from Australia, and all saying he never touched me, he never abused me, he's my friend. I saw these allegations collapse one after another in that courtroom. I saw the Chandler allegations collapse. I saw other allegations collapse. I saw from morning till evening what happened when jurors watched witnesses examined by the prosecutor, then cross-examined by the defense attorney. And at the end of those 5 months, I came to an absolute conclusion, which I'd already come to before the trial started, but it was even stronger at the end of that trial when this very conservative jury in a very law and order town with a very high conviction rate, very conservative credentials, and very bright, I saw them go not guilty 14 times. And that experience seared into my soul a very strong belief that Michael Jackson never molested anyone. Michael Jackson had an affinity for children. He never had a childhood. He wanted to be good to children because he had the financial resources to do it. He built an amusement park. He built a zoo. He invited inner city children. He invited disabled children. He paid for children for have surgeries around the world, kids who were in trouble financially and had disabilities. He did so many good things. And to try and turn that around into making him a horrendous criminal was really tragic, and I think it had a lot to do with shortening his life.